Okay, well, welcome everybody. I'm here with Dr. Jonathan Greenberg, the founder of Zyppah, a remarkable medical device that it is revolutionizing the way people are sleeping. I mean, I had an issue with sleep apnea, and admittedly, I'm waiting for my device, my appliance. I can't wait to try that because my wife would always complain about my snoring. But Dr. Greenberg, I mean, with results from a big bear like Shaq to so many testimonials. This is really sweeping the snoring nation by storm, if you will. Can you bring us to the genesis? Like, how did you come across this, and how you started the company? Because it's absolutely remarkable, and I think investors would love to hear where this started in your background. Take us through that, please.
Well, thanks, Izzy, and I appreciate everybody here and listening in. And I'll try and be as succinct because once you get me going, I can get going.
Yeah,
Uh,
I get it.
so, quite simply, I all started out. My undergraduate degree was in biomedical engineering out of Syracuse University. I then went to dental school at NYU. Needed good weather, came out to LA, and I had a very successful dental practice um, coming through there. But in 2001, a gentleman came into our office and said snoring and sleep apnea are the next big thing in dentistry because you go, why is a dentist dealing with snoring and sleep apnea? So this individual came in trying to sell us some equipment and we bought it. And it really excited me because when I looked at the numbers, I saw 100 million people in the US who snore. Less than 10% were doing anything successfully to be treated. And I said, you know what? There's something really important here. And by the way, snoring and sleep apnea are very closely tied together. In
Mm.
fact, there's about 45 million Americans who have sleep apnea. So it's almost one out of two. So
Wow.
as a dentist, being able to change people's lives positively excited me. There were many wonderful dentists out there, but very few people that really knew anything about sleep apnea back in 2001. So I kind of switched completely my practice into snoring and sleep apnea. By 2006, I stopped doing any dentistry, traditional dentistry, it was only treating snoring and sleep apnea.
Mm.
Pre COVID, I had 5 treatment centers exclusively treating snoring and sleep apnea. I've treated over 10,000 patients. In 2012, I was very upset with the fact that there had been no movement in getting people treated successfully for snoring and sleep apnea. Basically, everything stood still from 2001 to 2012. Now, every patient that came in, we're not worried about heart attacks, strokes, Alzheimer's, diabetes, weight gain, all those things that snoring and sleep apnea cause. What they were concerned with was their bed partner, their wife, their husband. And they said, you know what, doc, if you can get me to stop snoring, you're my hero. And I realized very quickly that everything that was being done was missing the actual cause of snoring and sleep apnea, which was the tongue.
I got to tell you, candidly, I seem to remember even my parents saying, "Oh, he's snoring. He's getting such good sleep. Let him alone. Let him rest long." Because everyone thinks that when you're snoring, you're like in this great deep sleep, but it's the contrary. You're not getting good sleep at all if you're snoring. In fact, like you said, that's the highway to sleep apnea, where if you're stopping your breathing, you might wake up for a second and you go doze back off, but that's certainly not any good sleep.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. In fact, I'll just make it real simple. Snoring is a partially blocked airway caused by the tongue. Sleep apnea is a completely blocked airway caused by the tongue. Now, why do people not snore when they're younger or they don't have sleep apnea when they're younger? Well, the tongue is a muscle. What happens to our muscle tone as we get older? We lose muscle tone, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Uh, People know I only snore when I drink alcohol or when I'm exhausted from
Relax.
working out.
Yeah.
Well, alcohol is a muscle relaxant.
Yes.
They
Okay.
go, I only snore when I'm on my back because gravity is pushing the tongue backwards.
Yeah.
You roll
Uh,
on your side, you get elbowed. On your side, you don't snore as badly.
yeah.
So it was clear it was about the tongue. That was the good news and bad news. Back in 2001, when I realized this, I looked to see all the research, what was talking about the tongue, because I was new. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. But listening to my patients, it was clear the tongue was there. None of the research talked about the tongue. So I started to play with making devices to address the tongue. And all my physician friends, okay, my ENT buddies, all said, Doc, you don't have a clue what you're doing. Stay out of our lane. Stay working with teeth. And I said, no. So, I had to have really thick skin because they threw arrows and swords at me. But the great news, I was able to get the patents. So that gave us a clear path. And in 2012, when we created Zyppah, I was able to get all those patents on what we call the seatbelt for the tongue, which is a silicone strap that keeps the tongue from falling back. So if the tongue behaves, no problem. But if it goes to fall back, just like a seatbelt, now there you go. And you can see in the back there, it's a green band, and that keeps the tongue from falling back. And that's why literally our success is so high. So where our competitors are all less than 50% successful, we did a clinical trial that was cleared by the FDA on 600 patients. And the results from that were 91% successful. We were more than double the success rate of anyone else out there. And it was completely because of the strap. And then we took that study and we put it into a peer-reviewed medical journal where they scrutinize. It's peer-reviewed, so it's looked at by other physicians to make sure that our data and the science behind it was accurate and correct. And then they publish it. And so we did that for all to see because we knew, people don't want they want the facts. They want the science to prove that you are that good.
And the remarkable thing is you look at this and it just seems simple, right? I mean, Larry, the CEO of Zyppah, which by the way, folks, I think it's very clever. I don't know about your CMO, whoever came up with the name, but Happy Z's backward is what Zyppah is. And who's really happy? The person wearing the appliance or the people around them, right? I don't know. The argument is still out. But Larry Biggs, the CEO of the company right now. Larry, you had a tremendous journey with raising tens of millions of dollars for companies in similar space. And the results that you've had with penetrating the market, you saw a tremendous opportunity. And, candidly, Larry and I have wrestling backgrounds. It kind of just looks like a mouthpiece for one of my wrestlers, right? It's not this big Darth Vader thing that I used to wear. I'm certainly not making noise and having to refill that. And I used to remember hanging my hose over the shower curtain and things like that with my CPAP machine. This is just sleek. I can throw it in my backpack if I'm traveling. I love it. Can you speak to that, Larry, the simplicity of this and the market penetration that you guys are getting?
Yeah, I can, and I'll talk a little bit on the business side as well. I don't have a medical degree, but what I found interesting is, how the whole sleep industry is understanding how much it impacts our health, right? Just one quick tangent. There was a fellow that won the Nobel Prize recently that he realized that nitric oxide was actually a messenger molecule, and the only way the human body can make it is when you're breathing through your sinuses at night when you're sleeping. So if you're mouth breathing, you're not breathing through your nose, you're not making nitric oxide. Well, the Nobel Prize was awarded for him figuring out that that the messenger molecule does, it messages the vascular system to actually smooth out, not let plaque grow, relax your entire, endothelial system. And basically it's from sleep, right? Or poor sleep, I should say. So the beginning of this, really, I won't spend an hour on it because we could, going into all the downline of the health issues that come about. So when I saw this, what I got excited about is, obviously in the health industry, as you probably know, Izzy, from the financial side, some of these challenges of getting through FDA approvals and getting all these, the scientific parts done is a big challenge. Yeah. This company, for me, I've had prior companies that I've taken to the NASDAQ, doing $100 million a year, valued at over $1 billion, but I've had 540 employees, right? When I saw this one, the simplicity of it, where the mouthpiece is so simple to sell because it's direct to consumer. We literally don't have any infrastructure necessary for it. We've got FDA clearances for both sleep apnea and to treat sleep apnea, mild to moderate sleep apnea, and snoring. As Dr. Greenberg shared, we have patents on it. We've sold $55 million of product today, so obviously it's well accepted, and the market is vast. You don't realize it. In America alone, there's 100 million people that snore. Only 5% of them are being treated right now. On a global level,
Wow.
it's 600 million people, and less than 5% are being treated. So you have to look at, as you go through the numbers, it's such a simple, straight business for us because it's direct to consumer. We project that we can do 100 million in revenue with 20 to 25 employees. And on the global market, if we penetrate 1/3 of 1%, we're generating over $100 million in revenue. It gets to be, pretty ridiculous. So we think, and we have a tremendous team. We have our marketing is headed up by Josh Burris, who was the ex-CEO of GNC. Our science side we have Richard Serban, who served as head of corporate development for Johnson & Johnson for 15 years. Dr. Greenberg, as he shared, his background, his expertise. I've been on the commercial side, in the public markets. So we have everything was put together as I came. So not only not the product only being simple to sell and market and be effective, but also the business side to execute it. Those two things together is what really attracted me to the company.
And for me as well. And folks, let me just say that we're not making any type of guarantees or anything like that. All this are forward-looking statements. But when I took a look at your company, Dr. Greenberg, I'm here saying that we're throwing gas on a burning fire already. It's not like we're trying to rub two sticks together here and get things going. You guys have had tremendous penetration into the market, $55 million in unit sales. The margins are remarkable. I'll let you guys share on that in just a second. But folks, you're probably seeing a link come up if you want to go ahead and schedule a call with us to potentially speak with the founders. That's possible. I'll get you granular details on the offering that we're doing right now. But let's jump back into this and talk a little bit about where the company's going with this raise and what you're planning on doing with some of those monies. And it really sounds like a lot of that is just heavily marketing, heightening the visibility. Like you had mentioned worldwide, I had no idea that we're only just tapping 5% of that market because most of these people aren't getting treated at all. So can you speak to that, either Dr. Greenberg or Larry, whoever wants to take that? But let's talk about some of the margins and what you're planning on doing on the marketing side.
I'll start with that, and then I'll pass it to Jonathan.
Yeah.
I'll pass it. So
Good thing.
basically, all of our numbers look wonderful because we start with an 80 to 85% gross margin. Our cost of acquisition we project that it's going to be sub 30%, right? So that's why we believe looking forward, we could bring an EBITDA in that 30-40% range, which is extremely strong. Of course, we have to execute it, but we think we can do it. On the global market, to repeat myself, only 5% is being treated, but we're already approved in all 27 countries of the EU. We're approved in the UK. Obviously, we're already selling in America and Canada. So our market is before us. So I think your explanation of gas on an existing fire is a good explanation. We're already moving forward, right? And that I see the upside of this being how well can you market, how efficient can you market. We've already proven the science since 2012. We've proved we're the only guys to have a clinical study showing a 91% efficacy. And the reason we're the only guys, nobody else is going to do a clinical study to prove that they're not as good as us, right? So we really are far ahead. So from the business side, I see all the numbers lining up, quite beautifully, frankly. But Dr. Greenberg, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, no, thanks, Larry. What you said is exactly correct. But a couple of things I want to point out as well to people listening in the sense of how this is already proven. So, we've had more than 550,000 customers. Our return rate is less than 7%. I think last year it was 4.25%. So this proves demand. It proves people like it because they're not returning it. We have third-party validation. So Lester Holt and the NBC Nightly News, they did a piece on us and how well it worked. I was on Dr. Oz with Shaquille O'Neal, who was my patient, on how well it worked. And you can see here what Shaq said about the appliance. I've been interviewed over 100 times. I've trained hundreds of dentists and physicians on how to treat snoring and sleep apnea. So we're not just looking at how good we are today, which is amazing. We're front runner, but we're looking, how are we going to stay in front the next 5, 10, 15 years long term? So we're creating a foundation for a company to own this whole space. There's 3 pillars of health: exercise, diet, and sleep. You can all name many, many multi-billion-dollar companies in the exercise and diet space. Can you name one? Izzy, can you name one in the sleep space?
No.
Okay.
No.
I'll tell you, when we created it, and I grew up in the 60s and 70s. We played our records backwards, and that's why I came up with Zyppah, Happy Z spelled backwards, not Stop Snoring backwards, but it was Happy Z because we are Happy Sleep, because we want to dominate in the sleep space. We want to be that 900-pound gorilla. We believe we will. So what this capital is being used for is marketing, to make sure that we are that number one 900-pound gorilla in this sleep space.
And folks, again, if you click on the link there, we can get you details on what we're doing. You can get on the calendar there. I'll also have this link there that you can click on to see that video with Shaq. If you can take a look at there on the bottom, I think that testimonial is remarkable with Dr. Oz. And going back to Lester Holt, that wasn't paid advertising, right? It was basically an expose on the industry, because so many people were saying that they could do these things and it wasn't really coming true. And then he shined the spotlight on you and said, hang on a second, this actually works. Larry, can you speak to that a little bit and what that did for the company with sales?
Well, actually,
go ahead, Dr.
Let me jump in for a second.
Go ahead, Dr. Greenberg. No, go ahead.
Yeah. What was really interesting, to your point, is it was the investigative reports with Jeff Rossen on the Lester Holt show. And Jeff didn't believe that it was going to work. The other 2 products for snoring did not work. And he's there, just like you said, he goes, look, it actually worked. And it was like, and yeah, I mean, it was fantastic. So to have that third party validation, we didn't pay for Dr. Oz either. So, we didn't pay for any of that. So to have this third party validation on how well it works. And when you understand that, we just have 1% of the US market, which is 1 million people. We're $100 million a year company. And that valuation, and Larry can talk better about the valuation, but what they've told me is the companies in this space are getting a 10x on their gross revenue. When you look at other companies in the space, that's where it's at. If we're only doing 100 million a year, which is a great number, that gives us $1 billion valuation. At our current valuation, I think it's 30 million. You're talking about what, a 30x or such?
Yeah.
But we think what Josh Burris, who used to be the CEO of GNC, he's used to companies $3.5 billion in revenue. He feels within 18 to 36 months, we will be at 200 to 500 million a year. And he thinks our valuation won't be $1 billion, but it could be 2 to 5 billion. Obviously we would all love that. I can't predict the future because, hey, I'm only a dentist. I'm an expert in snoring and sleep. I leave that to you guys, to my Larry, our CEO, and Izzy, to yourself. But to me, when I hear this and you've shown me the numbers and everything else, it gets me beyond excited on not just the money is one thing, but how many people we're really helping. And as you said before, Izzy, I coined a term about 10 years ago, secondhand snoring. We all knew about secondhand smoking, okay? Yeah. But the bed partner. So what happens is the bed partner's not getting their REM sleep. And when they're staying in the bed to be a good bed partner, a good wife, a spouse, and they're actually gaining weight because the bed partner's snoring. Wow. So your body metabolism slows, your REM sleep is disrupted, your immune system's disrupted. So you're more vulnerable to getting sick. You're more vulnerable to gaining weight, and metabolism slows. There's all these different things that go on medically. And I don't want to take the time here because I could talk for hours. When I give courses, it's an all-day process. But you can get the idea of the impact by being in the same bed with someone who's snoring. So both bed partners are helped massively when this
Wow.
happens.
That's
And to
incredible.
what he's saying is to expand on that a little bit. One of the things that's helping us tremendously is the sleep industry as an industry itself is growing rapidly. You have multi-billion-dollar companies in the sleep apnea world, such as ResMed, such as Inspire. Nyxoah is another one that is coming next quarter over from Europe. These are multi-billion dollars, and some of their multiples are 20, 30 times on revenue, right? It's amazing. But what's happening is there's an awareness of sleep apnea. And then it trickles down to an awareness of snoring is a lead before sleep apnea. So it's helping us. Now you're starting to get universities who are getting to have, getting to have these divisions and these degrees that are in the sleep world, right? And it's getting to be something that is more knowledgeable. To go back to what I said earlier about the nitric oxide, we've learned for years that eating poorly is a contributor to cardiovascular health. Nobody knew that sleeping and not making nitric oxide, sleeping as a mouth breather, not making nitric oxide contributes to your cardiovascular poor health, right? This knowledge sleep is growing rapidly in the medical community. The sleep knowledge, right? That is helping us tremendously. People are realizing that, hey, if I snore, it could lead to more health issues. So that's helping us when you start talking about valuation, quite honestly, the valuations in our space are ridiculously high, right? We're benefiting from that. But even if they're not ridiculously high and they're just a 10x multiple of EBITDA, we're still tremendously valuable in the market. And we are getting the benefit of ridiculously high multiples because the sleep space is new and growing and exciting. But even take the most conservative multiple of net profit or gross revenue, we still look extremely strong. We look at, it's a multiple on your investment.
It's really, really exciting. And when I look at the numbers, it reminds me of like a SaaS play, and it's not. I mean, it's remarkable the numbers that you're doing here. And we'll go ahead and wrap up with a few final thoughts. But the first thing that I want to say is, folks, we're not making any medical claims, but for the fact that this stops snoring, right? We're not saying that this is going to cure cancer or Alzheimer's or anything. We're not saying that here. All of this are forward-looking statements as well. Definitely get the information, but without a shadow of a doubt, I think you should take a good hard look at this company and see if it merits being inside of your portfolio, and we'll certainly get you the details on that. But Dr. Greenberg, what are just some of the things that you would want to share with investors as they're thinking about placing some of their monies into private companies like yours that could potentially be explosive? What would you like to share with them before we wrap up here?
Well, I know from me on the other side of things, for instance, as an investor, if I go and invest in a public company, I'm lucky to get a 10 to 20% return on my investment. A 10x return is almost unheard of. And you have to do it in the private market. So private versus public. Yeah. So, but as a normal investor, if I'm not a net worth of 100 million or $1 billion, I can't get into the Apples pre-public. Yeah. I can't get into the Microsofts pre-public.
Yeah.
Here, because of what you've put together, Izzy, it's a way for people to get into a company like Zyppah where everything's been done. You guys have told me, you're educating me that, our valuation is like a startup company, but we're long past startup because we've proven we've got 55 million in revenue, less than a 7% return rate, sold more than 550,000. We've got the FDA clearances. We've got everything all there. And the money coming in is being used to grow the sales. It's not
and we're revenue generating, Dr. Greenberg.
Yep. Yeah, we're revenue generating. So with all this happening, I look at this and it's kind of like, I'm obviously key part of this, but I would be looking normally for companies like this where they're private, going public within a short period of time, relatively 18 to 36 months. I can tell you for Larry and I, we want it on the 18-month side.
Yeah.
So, we're looking at, once we get to 100 million a year in revenue, which Josh Burris from GNC feels he and his team can get us there very quickly. We're looking at doing that launch. So to be able to be in something this fast moving with everything we've got behind it and building the company so it's going to be strong long term, not a one-legged horse. We're coming out with numerous other products that too much to get into right here, right now. But there are so many levels. The more you look under our dress, the more excited it gets. In fact, I'll just bring up one other thing. February, almost a year ago, we were having about 5,000 unique visitors a day to our website.
Wow.
That's 90,000 a month, or over 1 million a year. Now, of that 1 million a year coming to our website, 60% have sleep apnea, probably.
Unbelievable.
Now, those patients, those customers are worth easily $50 to $100 to the sleep apnea companies like ResMed and Inspire. We can sell that list to companies like that. Say it's, $50 each. We sell 1 million people a year. That's $50 million in revenue. That didn't cost us a thing. There's no cost of goods. That's just because we're the top of the funnel. We're attracting everybody in to see us. And from there, we can get them elsewhere and capitalize as a company on that. If it was half of that, that's still 25 million a year in pure profit.
And Dr. Greenberg, I think what's unique about us, right, what you're explaining right now, is that when you look at an investment, you want to reduce the risk and obviously multiply the upside. By us having this ability to offer what our customers to us, but patients to the sleep apnea companies, we not only become an IPO target, but we also become an acquisition target, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Because it's tremendously less expensive to market to our existing customers than it is to spend the tens of millions of dollars that Inspire goes and spends on Fox News right now to get those patients, right? So what it does, it makes our value a much higher foundation and a much lesser risk on the downside. And then on the upside, we've already done $55 million in revenue. Our success is basically a matter of raising capital to multiply, what we call a ROAS, a return on our advertising spend. So most of the capital being raised is going to be used to grow our ROAS. We want to grow that return on advertising spend. We want to go into additional channels, both vertically and horizontally, as well as internationally. So that's something that we also have to offer that's unique. We're really mitigating that risk on the downside, where we're already revenue generating and have all the things we shared already completely done, and that's the upside. And I think that's very unique in an early stage company like us.
It's absolutely incredible. And folks, go ahead and click on the link that's shown up there. I've got the interview there, or the excerpt there with Shaq as well. But I'll tell you right now, my final thoughts are this. I believe that a company like this, where an investor looks at something, they're always looking for the sophisticated, bright investors. They're always looking for some kind of unfair advantage. Okay. This is a tremendous unfair advantage when you look up the startup world. And knowing that many of these companies, they're not even generating revenue. They've got some great ideas, great teams. You guys have already done that. It's absolutely remarkable. I am so excited about this project. Make sure you click on the link there to get on my schedule. I could potentially introduce you to Dr. Greenberg and Larry Biggs as well. So folks, thank you so much for watching. I'm really excited about this project. Have an amazing rest of your day. And again, my hat's off to you, Dr. Greenberg. It's absolutely remarkable what you've been able to do with this product. And at a price point that is affordable for any household that is struggling with someone snoring in there, I can tell you right now, you're going to take the snoring market by storm, and you already have begun that. So my hat's off to you. Great, great job. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. Appreciate it,
Thanks
Dr.
for the time.
Greenberg. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, everyone.